Hey you, it's Lunar. I'm back with a short story this time. Nice, short, lighthearted story. So this one, well, it's not even. I don't want to say lighthearted. It's actually it's kind of stressful at one point. It ultimately ends up being lighthearted, but it was actually like super stressful at one point. So this takes place when I was about. I think I was about. I had to have been 17, 17 or 18, and my parents went on a vacation. They left town. It was like my dad went on a business trip to a foreign city, and my mom went with him. And they kind of just made a vacation of it. And they offered me and my brother the chance to go, but we were like, nah, fuck that. And so they went on their vacation. And I was there responsible for making sure that my younger brother went to school. I had a car and a license at the time, so I was responsible for making sure he got there and got back. And I remember one morning I drove him to school, and when I should also preface this, like I cut class all the time in high school, like in like junior senior year. I'm genuinely amazed that they gave me a diploma because like I only came to school like a fraction of the time. For some reason, they were like, "Oh, that's good enough. You can have a diploma." But anyway, this was one of those days where I cut class, and I took my younger brother to school. I dropped him off. Everything was normal, and start driving home. Don't even notice anything. I don't even think anything. I'm just driving home, completely minding my own business. I get back to the crib. I parked the car in the house for some reason. I parked the car in the garage for some reason. I didn't normally park my car in the garage back then, but it was just like for some reason I felt this inclination to do so. And so right as I parked the car in the garage, I noticed someone's walking up, like someone's like pulling up to our driveway, and I get out of the car and close the garage door, and I'm just like, whoever it is, they'll go away, because I mean, we're not expecting anyone, and if anybody was supposed to be coming by that day, then they would have either texted me, like if a friend was coming over or something, they would have texted or called, or if my parents were expecting someone, they would have texted or told me. And so I just closed the garage door, and I'm just like, whatever. If it's some random, they can just fuck off. Which, I mean, I know that's a little bit selfish, but at the same time, it's a stranger pulling up in your driveway, right? Like, I'm not gonna. I was an unarmed 17-year-old. I'm not, and I didn't know how to fight. I'm not gonna roll the dice, right? So I just close the door and ignore them. Close the garage door and I ignore them. I go back in the house. I'm minding my own business, just chilling. I was playing a video game, and I was playing something on my Xbox 360. And I'm chilling out with my buddy Kevin, and Kevin is somebody that I played online games with for years. And truly one of my OGs. And we still talk about this story to this day. This was like, God, man, forever ago, 15, 16 years ago. It's a long time ago. And so Kevin and I are chilling on an online game that day, and we're just minding our own business. And then all of a sudden, I hear a rap on the window. Like I hear somebody knock on my window. I'm like, what? I kind of peek out the blinds. This is like maybe an hour after I'd gotten back, maybe like 45 minutes after I'd gotten back. So I look out the window, and there's a police officer knocking on my window. And I'm like, at this point in time, I really wasn't doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. I mean, aside from skipping school, but like truancy officers just did not, like I knew it wasn't a truancy officer, because there's just, that never happened. Like for all the times that my friends and I cut school, legit, I do not ever remember encountering a truancy officer. Like it was crazy back then, because you could basically leave school like halfway into the day under certain circumstances, and that's more or less what I used to do if I just didn't outright skip. So I didn't know who was knocking. I didn't know what cop would be knocking on our window, and I just kind of I was freaking out. I didn't ignore it. I was like freaking out. So I called my parents, and I was like, "Hey, there's a cop at my window. Like there's a cop knocking on my window. What do I do?" And my mom's freaking out. My mom's like, "No, what? What did you do? Why are there cops there?" And I was like, "I didn't do anything," because at the time I was honestly like a pretty innocent kid, aside from the skipping school a lot. I didn't do drugs at the time. I didn't drink. I didn't really, get into any real trouble back then. I was mostly a pretty good kid for the most part. And, I hadn't done anything especially that would warrant police coming out to the house. I mean, again, truancy officers are a thing, but in that town where I grew up, it was just, I'm telling you, I skipped so many days of school. My homies all skipped so many days of school all around the town at different schools in the same district. And, like, To this day, I've never heard of any of us getting popped by a fucking truancy officer, right? So I thought nothing of it, except to call my parents and tell them, I'm like, hey, like, are the cops supposed to be here? And my mom, bless her heart, my mom is a doting mother. She's always been extremely caring about my brother and I, and her mind immediately goes to panic, thinking that like either I've done something I'm not telling her about, or like something else has gone terribly wrong. So my mom's like, hold on, okay, hang up the phone. I'm gonna call one of your cousins to come up, and I want you to go ahead and call the police and ask them who's here and why they're here. And I was like, okay. So she called my cousin. Him and my uncle come over, and they're parked out in the driveway. The cop is out there. I call the police officer, or I call the cops, and I call 911, and I'm like, hey, I'm at such and such house in such and such street, and I have a cop knocking on my window, and I don't understand why. Like, I don't know what they want. And they were like, are you Lunar? Which, I mean, obviously they didn't call me Lunar. They called me my actual name, but like, are you Lunar? And I was like, yes. And they're like, yeah, they're there to speak with you. And my heart sank. Like, I was like, okay. So I didn't even ask why. I just hung the phone up. So I went to the door, and this officer, she was super cordial, super cool. I've only had like a handful of bad interactions with cops, and whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but she was super sweet, and she was like, hey, I had a phone call, or rather, I had someone report that you had stolen their dog. Like, this lady says that you took her dog. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, she said that she saw you drive by her house and pick up her dog and take off. And we had a dog at our house at the time. We had a little Jack Russell Terrier, absolute sweetheart, who I miss dearly. Rest in peace, sweetie. She was there, but she was our dog, right? So, and she was cool as hell. Like, she never got wound up over anything. She was just like the doggy equivalent of Xanax, right? Like, super chill, super cool. Always, she is just one of the sweetest dogs we ever had. I so sincerely miss her. But anywho, the cops, they're at the cop. There's only one cop there that I recall. I don't think there was more than one. And she was like, yeah, we just wanted to make sure that you hadn't taken anyone's dog. This lady is very adamant that you came and took her dog. She said you drove by such and such street, which I had driven by that street. The route coming home from, and taking my brother to school, that house was on that route. But I didn't stop to take a dog. I have no reason to take a dog. I'm 17. I'm home alone for the week, like virtually home alone for the week. Like, I want to do typical teenage things. I don't just want to steal a dog. Like, that doesn't make, that doesn't sound cool at all. And I was never the type I've never been the type to do something absurd like that. Steal someone's dog. That's crazy. But, I was telling the cop, I was like, yeah, no, I mean, you can search the house if you want to, if you insist. I don't have any dogs here, aside from this one that's ours. And she was like, no, it's cool. And my cousin and uncle were like, yeah, trust me, he is not the type of guy to steal a dog. Like, this lady's clearly on crack or something. And so the cop ended up just saying, like, okay, all right, that's good enough for me. That's fine. She left. My cousin and uncle were like, dude, what? We all were just completely bewildered. We were looking at each other. I don't know. I have no freaking idea, like, what just happened. I'm completely bowled over, and they're completely bowled over. So they get in their trucks and go back to work, and I go back in the house and call my parents. My mom is just crying. My mom is convinced that I'm, like, about to get executed by the state or something, extrajudiciously killed by the state or something. She's, like, afraid I'm, whatever. And she's just a doting mother, a worry lord. And so, which if she hears this, hi Mom, I love you. Remember this one? Anywho. So yeah, I called my mom back. She was boo-hoo-hooing, and I told her it's okay, it's all right. The cop was super chill. She left it, let everything go. There's no dog here. They know that. They didn't even search the house. They just, it's whatever. And I was like, everything's cool. And she, like, calmed down, and she was like, are you sure? Do I need to call them to come back and stay there? I was like, no, Mom, I've got it, okay? Trust me. It was a mistake. This lady, she might be on drugs. It may be genuine mistake in reality. Mistaken identity. I look like a lot of different people, right? Like, I look I don't know. I could be like a generic NPC in a video game. I look like a lot of different people. I've had people getting me confused for other people my entire life. My best friend in high school, people got us confused all of the time. Like, people legitimately, like teachers would get us confused, and we didn't look that alike. We kind of look alike, but not really. And so I don't know. It was just sort of a bizarre thing, and I let it go. I mean, for the moment, like, and everything, I cooled down, calmed down, because I was shook. I was like, I wasn't used to interacting with cops. I think I'd been pulled over one time for a traffic ticket at that point in my life, and that was the extent of my experience with police. So I was freaking right the fuck out. And so, thankfully, though, I calmed down. Everybody calmed down. Everything got back to normal. And yeah, that's just a funny little story, like just a crazy little something that happened back in the day. And yeah, it's very, very scary when you call 911 to ask why police are at your house, and then they ask if you are the person you are, like full legal name and everything. And you're like, yeah, I'm that person. And they're like, yeah, the cops are there to speak to you. That is a horrifying feeling. Hopefully you never have to go through that, but I'm also lucky that it all just kind of ended on a super chill note. All's well that ends well. I didn't get in any trouble. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got in any trouble. Everything worked out in the end. My poor mother, I probably freaked her out a good bit, but she calmed down, so, and she was going to freak out no matter what. I could have called her and said that the washing machine was broken, and she would have started, oh my God, are you sure you're okay? Please don't die. Like, Anyway, guys, I'm Lunar. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day, and make sure that you do so on purpose. See you next time.